As we have mentioned, there are big changes coming to the Preakness, and it's all to ensure it remains one of the premier events in the country. It's a chance for Baltimore City to show the world what it has to offer. And joining me now today is Baltimore City Mayor Brandon Scott to talk a little bit about the deal. This came a long way, man.
It did. And we think the governing team did a great job, right?
Yeah.
Getting the rights with NBC to make sure we still have the national audience. Moving it back, I think, a week is a very smart thing because it allows the premier horses and trainers to come. We know that's been an issue, and as we open Pimlico anew and renovate it, I think it's a way to keep this next generation and this next look at Preakness to be still something that we should all be very proud of.
How important was the deal to buy the rights? I've heard the people of opposition, it's short-sighted, they should just given it to Kentucky. But I wouldn't know if I'd want to be the governor to hand it over to another state.
But also, right, do you think the state of Kentucky would have let Maryland buy the rights to the Kentucky Derby, right? I understand the emotion, I understand all the things, so thinking about you can't fight these big entities, but we have to stand up for Maryland traditions, for Baltimore traditions, and things that mean a lot to this state. And if we do not control it, we don't know what folks are going to do. I think they made the right decision.
You'll have to do some juggling. You know, we had a conversation when Artscape moved to Memorial Day, and I thought, are people going to be around? And then you had a huge crowd there. So now you got to divide it some of those days.
Some years, right? Like this year won't be an impact, right? And we'll be able to make that adjustment when we need to, right? Because you can have it right after Memorial Day, right? Like instead of right before, we'll just be working with and look, that's what happens in big cities. There's multiple events and multiple things to do. We're going to have a Ravens and Orioles game on the same day next month, at the same place, essentially. We know that's what you want when your place is a destination for people to come and people want to be there. They're going to be out multiple things going on.
Tell me about crime numbers so far. I've seen some of the work in Fells Point right now. I jot down some of the numbers. Homicides way down, 25% or so. We still need to do some work with non-fatal shootings.
Yeah, non-fatal shootings.
What do we do to address some of that?
Well, we just keep on the strategy, right? We know that things have been popping up. Again, these things are driven. This violence that we see, not just in Baltimore, around the country, is driven by interpersonal conflict, making sure that we're getting ahead of that as much as possible through our violence intervention work. The police department is doing a great work with their investigations, holding people accountable. We just had the safest July on record. July, Jason, is normally the most dangerous month, right? So think about that. We had 7 homicides in July, 7 too many. In 2015, there were 40 plus homicides in July. That's a lot of progress, but we have a lot of work to do, and we're going to keep doing it.
We got to keep some of the young people out of the pools too, off hours. That seems to be a recurring thing.
Not just young people.
Good
not
point.
just young people.
Point.
Some adults. Remember last year we had a young man pulled out of a pool, a Walter P. Carter. It was a grown man, right? We're putting a lot of investment, Jason, into our parks and rec facilities. For your lifetime and my lifetime, we've heard Baltimoreans say we need to get back to giving money to rec and parks and doing rec centers and pools, and we're doing that. And we can't allow a few people who just want to mess up stuff. So we're going to try to hold those people accountable, but we're also going to be looking to families, parents, people that know who these people are, making people do better. We can't complain that we want this investment, and then they're talking about over $200 million in capital investment into rec and parks, right? We're good. We opened 4. We got 3 more. We got 3 more rec centers to open this year alone. We have to maintain those things and understand that that's a community investment for the community, and it's community responsibility to keep them up.
Tell me about investment into the conduit system. These tunnels, they carry the wires. BGE, I guess, is the biggest user of them. Before, and I guess in 2023, the idea was instead of rent, they pay for maintenance and take care of fixing things. So how does this new plan change now that we've come up?
I think folks have to understand this. This is a conduit system that is owned by the residents of Baltimore City that we as city government are responsible for being the shepherd of. It's over 100 years old. And the thing about this deal from 3 years ago, at that time, that was what we should have done. There were a lot of work done there. But we also have to understand this, Jason. The rate for which the renters, BGE, Comcast, all these other folks that are in the conduit hasn't really changed. Hasn't changed since 2016, right? So nothing that you bought in 2016 is the same price today. And even from that deal in 2023, if I gave you the same amount of money to build a brand new WBAL studio that I gave you in 2023, today, you would not be able to build it, right? So we have to make sure that we're making that investment, but also allowing that investment to meet where we're going as when things cost. As Fat Joe would say, yesterday's price is not today's price.
Will the phone ring now in your office at BGE when people see their bills? with this change?
So it shouldn't. I want to be
Okay.
very clear about this, right? We're hearing a lot of this about it's going to make your rates increase.
Okay.
That is solely up to BGE, right? They can ask for a rate increase, which, let me be very clear, they asked the PSC for a rate increase before we passed this on the Board of Estimates on Wednesday. So we can't fall into the trap of thinking it's about this. But also, and more importantly, when you think about this, even if the PSC, which doesn't have to give them the rate increase, by the way, does this would be roughly like $1 or $2 per bill. I don't know about you, but mine's increased by a hell of a lot more than $1 or $2 per month over the past few years. But that's a choice, right? They can choose to do that or not. When you think about the profit margins that they've been making, this is about us doing the right thing for the residents of Baltimore and making sure that people are not paying in 2026 the same thing that they paid in 2016, because our residents aren't paying the same for their BGE bills.
It's all the talk in the grocery
Yes,
store, how much
exactly.
they pay. Tell me about 311 right now. I've used it recently, and I know people here as well. People getting outside, doing yard work, and starting to notice things.
Yeah.
What should they do if they notice something that might be the city's responsibility?
Well, they should put the 311 request in, right?
Okay.
Use the app. I use the app. I actually use it anonymously, so that the agencies don't know it's me. But use the app, because that's also how myself, my city administrator, my deputy mayors, how we hold them accountable in city stat and things like that, to make sure that that work is happening, right? Yes, sometimes it's going to take a little while to give you that, and we're going to be rolling out more so that residents upgrades to 311, so people can see that when they put it in for illegal dumping, what happens. First, the housing department comes out and has to inspect it before sending it to the public works department to clean it up, because we want the people that actually dumped it to have to pay, right? So if we can find information in there, we're going to do that. But we always tell people to put things in the 311 so that we use it as an accountability tool, and also where we should be deploying our resources.
Okay, before we go, we always honor Dr. Tim Tootin. Who you wearing today? And then tell me about Douglas, man.
This is Green Street Academy, so shout out to all the charges at Green Street. We're rocking the Green Street Academy polo today. As you know, I'm doing this every time to honor Tim Tootin. And actually, earlier today, we cut the ribbon on a brand new Frederick Douglass High School, the second oldest high school in these United States of America that was open for black people in this country, right? So
notable graduates,
two notable graduates that we know here. Thurgood Marshall is a graduate of this school. Congressman Kwesi Mfume
I didn't know
is from that school. When you think about the legends that Douglas has put out, it's such a great time for us to be there. And it's the first of our high school portion of the 21st century school. I know you know the one that's under construction right now.
Oh yeah, we know Western and Palo, we know City. It's a progress. Progress is in the way. 14 schools.
14 new schools just since I've been the mayor.
Man,
Yes,
all right.
sir.
Appreciate you, sir.
Thank you.